got just to share a little testimony with you here. My background is kind of a kaleidoscope of different religious experiences. Pretty much raised an atheist, Jewish mother, Baptist father, became agnostics when my brother and I came along, sent us to Catholic school and public school. We went to a school that advertised atheism, actually, so I was all over the place. Had no real preference. 17 years old, living in a cave up in the mountains for a year and a half by myself, read the Bible, accepted the Lord, and began to go to church. Well, I'd never heard of Seventh-day Adventists. And so I went to the local churches, went to a number of evangelical churches and charismatic churches, and I studied with many different groups. I just wanted to know, what's the truth? And when I ran into this subject, I mean, it's right there in the second chapter of the Bible. God blessed the seventh day. And then you find it in the Ten Commandments. I was confused because I figured I hadn't read all the Bible yet. I thought there must be a scripture here, I just haven't run into it yet, that now commands us to keep another day or tells us it doesn't matter anymore. And so I go to the different pastors where I was worshiping, lovely Christian people in many different churches. And I met some just wonderful people, and I know the Lord was working in their lives, but there was a lot of confusion out there. And I'd ask one of the pastors, say, brother, I'm reading about the Sabbath, and of course it's in the Ten Commandments, and why don't we keep the Sabbath? And I got all these different answers, and none of them agreed. One pastor would say, well, we're not under the law now, Doug, we're under grace. I said, okay, well, what does that mean? Do we keep the Ten Commandments or do we break them? And he said, well, we keep the spirit of the law. I said, all right, let me understand that. What does that mean? He says, well, you keep it in your heart. It's an attitude. It's not an action. I said, all right. So, for instance, the commandment says, don't commit adultery. So as long as I've got a good attitude about it, I can commit the act, right? And that didn't make any sense. And I would never murder anybody. You know, Jesus said, if you're angry with your brother without cause, you're guilty of murder. So if you've got the right action, is it possible to literally murder somebody if you've got the right spirit and you're keeping the spirit of the law? And in the Sabbath also, if you're keeping the spirit of the Sabbath, where Jesus says, come unto me and I will give you rest, would you be breaking the commandment so that you can keep the spirit? With every other commandment you might look at, if you're going to keep the spirit of that law, you will also be keeping the letter of the law. The Spirit is not to substitute the letter of the law. The Spirit is to fulfill the real reason for keeping the letter of the law. Well, let me ask you another question. What if you are reading the Ten Commandments and you don't have the right spirit? Should you keep them anyway? Yes. Well, let me switch commandments on you and you'll get the principle. I really feel like stealing. I got stealing in my heart. So I'm not keeping it for the right reason. Should I go ahead and steal? No, there's a lot of other good reasons not to steal. So maybe I'm thinking adulterous things in my heart, and I'm looking and lusting, and I shouldn't be doing that. Since I don't have the right attitude in my heart, I may as well just go ahead and do it. You should always keep the commandments, because it'll always be better for you to keep the commandments. You want to strive to keep them from the heart for the right reason, is what Jesus was saying, but you ought to keep them because God said to keep them. They're not called the 10 recommendations or the 10 great suggestions.
Si Jesus miingon sa iyang mga tinunhan, kung kamo nagato nahigugma ka nako, inyong tumanon ang akong mga sugo, ug sa langit kamo maka